Hello and welcome to the second devlog for Project Nectar. Thank you to everyone who's left feedback on the last video. It's been super useful and is directly impacting what I'm focusing on. I've been super busy working on trying to bring this game to life, and one of the ways I've been doing that is by having the bees actually walking on the frames and inside the honey super. On top of that, if the player shakes the frames, the bees will actually fall off and they'll start to swarm where the frame was shaken. But before I show you any more of the bees, I'm going to show you the new placement feature which allows players to place items in the apiary however they like. I wanted to allow the player to enter placement mode in an interactive way. So I've come up with this idea that they have to wear a hard hat to enable placement interactions. The headset recording cuts off the bottom of the screen a little bit, so it's hard to show you, but you can reach down to your pocket and grab the hard hat from your waist. Once you have the hard hat, you can place it on your head and you'll see the lip to remind you that it's on. You should notice my hand now has a laser pointer to show me what I can move. When you select an object, you simply point your hand where you want the item to move to, and you can of course rotate objects if you like. At the moment I've just got flower beds and beehives set up, but it's pretty easy to add more placeable items in the future. I'm using a grid placement system I made a few years ago for a previous game. I actually ended up publishing the system to the Unity Asset Store to help fund my game development projects, and it's great to be able to use it again in this one. To add new items to the apiary, the player needs to use their placement backpack. They can access the backpack by reaching over their shoulder and grabbing it. Once you have the backpack out, you can grab the item you want and then position it where you like. If an item overlaps, the tiles will turn red, which indicates that the placement isn't valid. You can press the B button on the controller, and that will remove the item from the grid and return it to the backpack. When you're done, you can place the backpack back behind your shoulder and remove the hard hat. Tying the backpack system and the grid system together wasn't too bad. The backpack system uses the socket system I previously developed, which made setting up the inventory system a lot quicker. The socket system is actually another asset I've published on the Unity Asset Store to try and help fund my game development projects. If you did want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description, but I promise not to plug any more of my own assets in this video. Okay, the most exciting new feature, the bee updates. I wanted to be able to see the bees walking along the frames and the honey super to make it come to life. So, I started off by getting some bees to walk along the frame. I also made sure that they would stick to the mesh while I moved it around. As you can see, it didn't quite work for rotations. I improved the system and had bees walking on the frame as the frame was rotated around every angle possible. Next, I gave the bees a bit of a wiggle as they walked around. I also added behaviour for them to pause for a moment before continuing to walk on the frame, suggesting they're working on the cell they're next to. How do you think this looks? Let me know in the comments. I also made the inside of the honey super walkable too, so that even if all the frames are taken out, there are still some bees in the super. After seeing the frame fly around and the bees sticking to it, I realised I needed to add the ability to shake them off the frame. I added functionality so that when the frame was shaken down really quickly, the bees would drop off and start to swarm. Then I got the bees to return back to the frame after they'd calmed down a bit, but it wasn't very smooth, so I worked on having each bee fly back to the frame, and this looked so much better. I'd been testing this all in the editor just while I got the basics working, but now it was time to actually test it in VR. It was super fun just to shake the frames around, see the bees fly off and then return to the frame. And you can do this again and again and it just didn't get boring. I've been watching some beekeeping videos and noticed that when beekeepers shake the frames, not all of the bees fall off the first time. So I gave the bees a chance to stick to the frame to try and simulate this behaviour. A second shake should get them to fall off. 3 shakes will definitely do the trick. Being able to shake bees off the frame was great, but I was also running into framerate issues with only a handful of bees on the frame. I knew I needed to optimise the system. So I did a bit of profiling and optimised what I could. For reference, I had about 100 bees on the frame when it was becoming an issue. After my optimizations, I put the bee count up to 500 and tested it on the headset. It was getting max frames, which is 72 FPS on the Meta Quest 3. I tested 800, it made no difference, the headset ran it fine. Next, I pushed it to 1000. I thought this would be a good number of bees. Okay, well 1000 was running without any issues, so let's double it to 2000 and see what the frame rate drops to. To my surprise, the headset still ran at 72 FPS. I thought there was no way it would go up much higher, but I tried another 1000. 3000 bees and it's still running at 72 FPS. 4000 bees, we're now getting about 65 frames. So we found our limit, but let's just keep going and see what this looks like. 5000 bees. 6000 bees. 7,000 bees. 8,000 bees. Okay, 8,000 bees takes us down to about 50 FPS, so we're clearly a few thousand bees above what the headset can comfortably handle. But at this point it would be a crime not to test this with 10,000 bees. And here we go. So it runs at a not so fantastic 36 FPS, and you can tell. But it was still fun to see this many bees walking and flying around. Okay, so the game has to run at 72 FPS for a comfortable experience, which was a few thousand bees ago. And let's not forget that this scene is only rendering the bees. We need to leave room to render the rest of the environment as well. So realistically, we'll end up having 2,000 to 3,000 bees in a hive at once. I've checked out the systems and I'm confident that there are a number of optimizations I can still make to squeeze out more performance. However, for now I'm pretty happy with these numbers and I want to crack on with getting the rest of the prototype ready. That said, it would be a shame not to see what 100,000 bees would look like. There's clearly no way in hell that the headset would run that, so I'll simulate this in the Unity editor instead. This is an insane amount of bees. Just look at them all. I'm just going to say it, this is too many bees. You can't tell what's going on. This is madness. Okay, if this video can get to 200 likes, then next time I will show you what 1 million bees looks like running in the editor. So that's pretty much covered the majority of the progress I've made since the last devlog. I'm going to keep focusing on the bees. The next thing I want to do is introduce queen bees. I want to have the populations grow over time and even let the players do something called hive splitting, which is where you take some of an existing colony and transfer it to a new hive. If you want to follow along with this game development journey, do subscribe to the channel. Also, please keep the feedback coming. It's been really useful to hear what people want to see in the game, and I really do appreciate it. The focus on the bees is a result of the feedback I got in the last devlog. I look forward to sharing more progress with you soon. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.